Well, that's a pretty sight.
Hey everybody, welcome back. Craig Schaup here with George Thomas, our film critic from the Akron Beacon Journal. George is here. It's the middle of June. We are knee deep in the summer movie season, I would say, at this point. And I think, based on your review of this movie today, that we have our first must see summer release. George, how are you doing?
I'm good, and it's must see in my estimation. My opinion doesn't count for a lot, so there we
Oh, it
go.
does. It does here for sure. Well, and the movie we're talking about is Steven Spielberg's Disclosure Day. George, I would say that, when it's all said and done, Spielberg will go down among the all time great directors. He just has this movie making star quality where he just presents the awe that film can have over you, whether it's science fiction, scary stuff like Jaws, political thrillers that he's really done a lot in the last, couple of decades. But Spielberg has, sort of been maybe at his best when he's working in the science fiction realm. Obviously, Close Encounters of the Third Kind, E.T., one of my personal favorites, Minority Report. So Spielberg definitely in his wheelhouse here with Disclosure Day. It appears from your perspective that he's hit it out of the park. Tell us about Disclosure Day and why you think this is another one of Spielberg's great entries into his filmography.
You know what? One of the reasons is he positions it as a companion piece to CE3K, as I call it,
Sure.
Close Encounters. Visually, Spielberg is Spielberg. Narratively, Spielberg is Spielberg. Now, this is about something that's come to light recently, courtesy of the government, whether there's life out there. Now, some people have compared it to an X-Files episode, blah, 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 blah. Mm-hmm. It's just good old-fashioned storytelling, as he wastes no time getting into the narrative. But what he does is take his time having you put those pieces of the puzzle together until, boom. Now, what's the narrative? We meet Daniel, who is, and his girlfriend, Jane, who are, at the beginning of the movie, who have been kidnapped by black vehicled individuals, let's call them. They're always in black SUVs, huge SUVs.
Yes.
They've been kidnapped. They're meeting to turn over information. But Daniel, who's played by Josh O'Connor, tricks them, basically. Gets off with the information, simply becomes a chase picture for Daniel and Jane. Now, on the other side of the spectrum, we're given Emily Blunt's character, and I forget the character's name, who's a Kansas City a meteorologist, let's call her. That's a proper term these days. And, she's living life, enjoying life. Well, not so much enjoying life, because she wants to up and move from Kansas City. She's always possessed this wayward spirit. She goes with the wind. Then a cardinal flies in her open window. Of all the random birds to fly into an open window, not many people would put a cardinal on that list. Mm-hmm. After that cardinal appears, strange things start happening to her. She can speak Spanish fluently. She can speak Greek fluently. You can read minds. So it's like, what's going on here, right? And obviously, you can tell from that setup that with these strange things happening with Daniel and Emily Blunt's character, these characters are destined to meet. In the background, there's a shady, it's not a government organization, let's call it a government-sanctioned organization. And they're working to retrieve the data that Daniel stole. On the other side is a former member of that organization, played by Coleman Domingo. Love Coleman Domingo. Love me some Coleman Domingo. Who is working to get Daniel and that information into proper situation where it can be exposed. What's the information? Disclosure Day. It's proof of the existence of aliens. Now, the title gives away what this is going to be about. What's the
Right.
fun here is that in 2 hours and 25 minutes, Steven Spielberg holds your attention and throws a few curveballs, asking you to put together the pieces to figure out what's going on. And along the way, he manages to raise a couple of, let's call them philosophical questions. The chief one being religion. Jane is a former, and Jane is portrayed by Bono's daughter, is a former nun candidate. Okay? And when Daniel tells you the truth about the information he's holding, she posits that that information could upend religious order across the planet. And she operates from that perspective. And it throws a little narrative wrench into things because you have to wonder, as she's contacted by this government agency, whether she remains loyal to Daniel or whether she wants to ensure that her religious beliefs aren't upended. And that's the beauty of the story. You know, you could quibble with pacing or anything. Again, 2 hours and 25 minutes, I wasn't bored for a second.
Right.
I did ask a lot of, well, what the hell is he doing here now? And it's and on its face, it seems like it's messy until all the dots are connected. Until you're like, ah, ah, ah. Just, in my opinion, a great, great film that fits nicely in his filmography. And it fits nicely with his examination of the subject matter, given the cynicism of the day.
Yeah.
I mean, my son told me he read somewhere where it takes place in the CE3K universe. I don't know. I didn't bother researching that.
Right.
It could be bullpucky from a fan site, for all I know.
Right.
But it doesn't seem logical, given that this proof has existed for so long, and what happened with events in what was CE3K was 77, 78.
77.
That doesn't seem logical to me. So, you know, you go see it. It's Spielberg. Again, he doesn't make a bad movie.
Yeah, he's got, I mean, even when, I think the great thing about Steven Spielberg is he doesn't necessarily set out to make like perfect movies. They just kind of come across that way in a lot of ways because of how much wonderment and awe he inspires with his filmmaking. I think he's, you know, maybe arguably one of those directors that has like tapped into what the medium really is, which is entertainment, awe-inspiring. Yeah, you want to have, I'm sure he's a perfectionist at heart, but I think he also looks at it like, I'm making entertainment with moral and ethical dilemmas. I think he did a great job of that in Munich, which was a very underseen Steven Spielberg masterwork, in my opinion, where he really develops these ethical and moral questions about his own people, his Jewish nation. He was questioning in the aftermath of the Munich, the Munich Olympic murders. So I think he really has become this stalwart in filmmaking that just absolutely knows how to entertain you, whether the movie's perfect or not. It's almost irrelevant. It's more about keeping your attention. Like you said, it's 2 hours and 25 minutes, but it's more about keeping your attention and entertaining you while also asking difficult questions or interesting questions that, you know, we see so many times people make movies with aliens involved, and it's always a destructive mess. And it's always, you know, it's never like this hope of this version of hope or this what if, but also kind of a reaction to it as well, more so than it is a physical reaction or a military reaction. And I think Spielberg, is kind of one of those unique filmmakers where he can still blend, that awe-inspiring action and thriller elements to it without having to compromise sort of his vision for things and his, unrelenting hope for the country and for the world and for the universe.
Yeah, and I think the fact that he seeks that you make a valid point about him seeking to entertain first. He really does. he understands what the medium is supposed to be about. And I think he because the movies, I won't say inadvertently, but they generally turn out more perfect than not,
Mm,
or as close to as possible.
yeah.
It's backlash when they're not, when they're entertaining. I mean, I saw one scathing review, just absolutely scathing, how it was a big mess, and I'm like, oh, did we watch the same film? And it's like, no. I just think that with his filmography, and what he's done in the past, expectations for him are there. Expectations for everybody else, except maybe Christopher Nolan,
Right.
Martin Scorsese, are there.
Yeah.
So,
well, I just the longevity and being able to say that this is a director that has made great works of art in the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, the 2000s, the 10s, and now the 20s. Like, this guy has, a deep filmography, but a consistent one too, sort of like a Scorsese who's been making movies since the 70s as well. And those are two directors that really have stood the test of time in their filmmaking. And, I think I'm always intrigued, like, what kind of a box office, will Spielberg bring to the table? Obviously, Disclosure Day is not an IP. It's not a sequel, prequel, threequel, whatever. It's its own standalone movie, which is refreshing, obviously, to see. Who knows what the movie will make, at the box office, but you have to think it's going to be okay, right? I mean, you got to think that the Spielberg name still holds a little bit of clout beyond the cinephile world, right?
you would hope so, given that its competition is too. I don't want to insult the horror movies, but Obsession and what's the other one?
Oh,
Yeah.
the Backroom
Yeah, and Masters of the Universe, which
did not do very well.
master much of anything last week.
No.
So you would hope so, but I think the question is, how much cred does he have with a Gen Z audience? I mean, I was doing some research for his story, and for once, my demographic isn't the primary one that goes to the movies anymore. It's Gen Z and millennials, not Gen X.
Okay.
So, that Gen X loves Steven Spielberg. We grew up on him. I mean, even young Gen X. I mean, young Gen X would be what, late 70s, I believe. So that being the case, a lot of them grew up on E.T.
Yeah.
They probably missed out on Jaws. They definitely grew up on Jurassic Park. So we'll see who goes to the movies this weekend.
Absolutely. Well, and I know your final grade was an A-. And it's one of those movies, Spielberg, I think he likes his comfort, like obviously sci-fi, but he's got David Koepp screening the movie, penning the movie. He's got, Janusz Kaminski as the director of photography, who has seemingly done every Spielberg movie that, people could think of off the top of their head. Obviously, John Williams was back composing. I
check that credit.
Yes, he did. Yeah. So, he finds comfort in collaborating with people he's used to collaborating with. And I think it usually ends up being a good idea for him anyway, because he can just kind of focus on what he needs to focus on, because he knows everybody else is going to do their job. And, I've always admired Spielberg's, longevity and his ability to just shift through genres. I think a lot of people would maybe pigeonhole him as like a sci-fi, kind of director, but this is a guy that's made Saving Private Ryan, Munich, The Post. I mean, a lot of these movies that can be grounded in reality as well, which, is just a testament to his skill. So very interested in seeing it.
You mentioned Munich as being an underseen film. I'd argue that The Post was too.
Mm-hmm.
That's a great film. The Fablemans wasn't seen enough.
No.
He's got
his last, West Side Story didn't do a lot at the box office, and he kind of had, a strange run, I think, where, no one really saw like the BFG. And I mean, I really liked Ready Player One. I thought Ready Player One was like a classic Spielbergian, let's have some fun making movies, you know what I mean? And that's kind of what he's not setting out to make a great science fiction epic or a great, let's have, but I was kind of watching it a little bit the other night, and I was thinking, the movie kind of stands the test of time now, almost 10 years later. It's like 8 years later now, where, we still have this reliance on technology. We have this idea that we have to like live a virtual life because maybe our lives at home aren't the way we want them to be. So we shun ourselves from society to try and, pigeonhole ourselves into a reality that doesn't really exist for us, and make it, kind of a coping mechanism to, your reality that you're living in. So,
what's weird about that movie? I went back to his filmography on IMDb. That movie at one point was in the high sixes on their scale. It's over 7.5 now.
Yeah.
Which
I think
tells me that Gen Z immersed in technology audience has found it. That's what it tells me. It found it on video or whatever. And perhaps, just perhaps, they'll be willing to check this out. We shall see. And you're right, Ready Player One had its share of detractors. To me, it was just him doing Spielberg, entertaining, raising those salient questions.
A fun popcorn entertainment. Yeah,
exactly.
Just a fun movie. Watching it, it really, it might have been a little long in the tooth, but again, it's not a perfect movie, but it's a very entertaining movie, and it kind of reminds you of a Spielberg classic. It's not in the same level as some of those classics, but it's an entertaining joyride of fun. And I think that's kind of what Spielberg is when he's at his wheelhouse. That's what it is. He can make those types of movies while also still, peeling back those layers. Like, we've said before, a Minority Report, is kind of like that, where it's framed as sort of that summer popcorn entertainment, but it also has some real ideas behind it too that give it some teeth.
Now, see, that was classic science fiction to me.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, very well crafted. Munich, and you would probably tell by now that Munich, Minority Report are my two favorite Spielberg movies. Maybe not his best, but two of my favorite Spielberg. If I want to rewatch a Spielberg, those are probably two of the movies that are top of mind. But I'm glad that you enjoyed it, and we'll hopefully see some good box office returns from it. I know next week we have more summer fare coming out. Are you going to be seeing Toy Story 5?
Not in time to talk to you. Disney's doing that thing that movie studios are starting to do.
Oh, okay.
I see it. Well, maybe if we do this time next week, yeah. Sure.
Okay. Well, we will do that. All right, and then you'll also have some streaming that you can finally talk about too, right?
House of the Dragon.
All right, House of the Dragon.
Which have you watched that series?
I have seen 0 minutes and 0 seconds of House of the Dragon, and I've seen about 5 minutes of Game of Thrones. I just never got into it.
Before we go, just real quick, I saw the first 4 episodes, lost track of it. And because I did the virtual press conference for it, felt the need to catch up on it.
Sure.
And I can't turn it off.
Okay.
I can't. And I have to get to season 3 before I write about it. Probably going to do the first couple episodes of that tomorrow. But, that's been a surprise.
Okay. All right. Well, we will talk more about that next week. As always, you can read everything that George writes at beaconjournal.com. George, we hope you have fun with Woody and Buzz next week. Are you going to be seeing it in the afternoon then, you said?
2 p.m. So.
All right. So you'll be fighting off a bunch of kids then probably, huh?
Theater is empty.
Okay.
I was one of 12 to 15 when I checked today.
Okay. All right. Well, hopefully you have a good experience there, and we will talk more next week. As always, George, thanks for stopping by, and have fun at the movies next week.
All righty.